All right, what's up, guys? This is Master of One Podcast, episode 44, and we are going to be recapping the EAC Halloween Championship 6. So, 41 players played. The championship section was won by Timur Gareyev, and actually, it was a tie between Timur Gareyev and Nicholas Karas. They both scored 3.5 out of 4. Timur won on tiebreaks, so he gets the trophy. Under 1800 was won by Hunter Payne, and under 1400 was won by Srihaasa Karyampudi. Performance bonuses go to Hunter Payne, Saharsh Santosh, and Srihaasa Karyampudi. They all get free entry into one tournament. Hunter went 4 out of 4, and he was 3 out of 3, and actually was thinking about withdrawing the last round because he was worried about losing the last game or losing rating. And I know from at least a couple of past tournaments, he's had some struggles in the last game. I think he gets nervous. I will say personally, this is something that I went through a bunch. I would say the first 3 times I needed to win in the last round to get a norm, I would always lose. I was actually very notorious for losing in the last round. And then you kind of just power through it. And then nowadays, like, I'm actually the opposite. I'm like notorious for getting if I need a win, I can get a win. There's not being nervous, not letting it affect my play, and it actually just letting it affect my opponent's play. Because this is something that you have to remember. Like, in the last round, it may be hard for you, but it's also going to be hard for your opponent. And I think the solution is basically what he did. He powered through it. He played, and he got rewarded with a nice, easy game. And I think that's a big part of why he gets a bonus. Also, his games are beautiful. He was gonna submit one. He doesn't even need to, but he checkmated this guy with queens off the board. Very nice game. Saharsh ended up beating 2200, drawing 2300, and beating a 2170. All really nice games. Even the game he lost against Carter, I think with proper play, I don't know if he could have won, but he could have definitely made Carter dance and have a very tough position. One thing I will say, I don't know if he's ever going to hear this, but it's definitely good to play fast. Like, he plays very fast. It's a good thing. But there are moments where I think he should slow down a little bit, especially in these critical moments. Like, there was a position against Carter where he has 2 options where he can trade off pieces and get an endgame. I wouldn't even say like a good endgame, just like an equal endgame. Or you can try to keep pieces and really kind of torture Carter. And there's also this rook sacrifice he could have analyzed. I don't know if he did. I didn't talk to him after the game. But I would at least recommend taking a little bit more time and being more precise or accurate. So when you play these stronger players, like the small details matter because they're not going to just fold over. And then Srihaasa, he ended up going 4 out of 4 for some reason. And this is an error on my part. He wasn't in the first round, so he ended up getting a bye. But he played, so his rating's I think 1,000 or 1,100, and he played a 1,700, and he drew, but he should have won. So he had a very, very good performance. After that, he went 3 out of 3, and drawing, but should have been winning against someone 600 points above you. Definitely is what you're looking for when you're searching for who to award bonuses to. Now, a couple things about the tournament. So this tournament was kind of marked by, we had the strongest grandmaster to ever play. I mean, I would say ever play in the state of Georgia, Timur Gareyev. And I think there were a lot of pros and there were a lot of cons. I'm going to try to be as fair as possible. I don't want to get into many details, but he came in, things were great. But definitely there was some complications, I would say, throughout the week. Just with anyone with some controversy, I think it's very good to be sensitive and appreciative of whoever says anything, feels anything, and just try to do the best as an organizer to make every party feel as, I guess, comfortable as possible. And yeah, it was definitely hard for me. It's my first time ever having to deal with this. Like, you know how you see like certain figures do something and then lose endorsements? I always used to be like, hey, that's not fair. Like, why would they ever do this? Like, you shouldn't lose an endorsement. And I think in some respects, it is unfair. Like, whatever is always said is not kind of a fair thing. But I think a lot of it is on the athlete in the upcoming weeks and months, or even like years, I guess in this case. Like, I believe if, let's say you made a mistake or you're accused of a mistake, like, you should be very, I think, respectful and nice and easy to get along with, and really try to avoid any other controversy. Like, almost the opposite. Like, you should be looking to do nice things, like giving to charity, doing things for free, like being nice. And I think the initial reaction was very unfair, but the following couple interactions didn't help the case, would be the best way to put it. Like, things were tense, and then they got more tense, and they got even more tense. And I think if everything was executed properly, there could have been a lot more diffusion of the situation, or any situations. But the fact that things got more and more tense really made it intense for me and for Carter and for kind of the people associated. This is the first time, like, I just don't know what to do, and I asked Carter, like, yo, what should we do? Like, I ended up doing this a lot this past week, and it was the first time, and like, it didn't really help because he didn't know what to do. So then it just led to all of us not really knowing what to do. So going forward, I guess is the question, what do we do from here? Definitely of trying to avoid controversy. And if there is controversy, if there's anything going on, like, I think the best solution is to give it time and to respect people who feel uncomfortable. Because I would say what happened in this situation is people felt uncomfortable, and then it's almost like things got worse. And then and then I think I just, like, I feel bad, I look bad, like, when you vouch for someone, and things don't go well, I think you are at least somewhat accountable for what happened. Now, a couple of things I do want to say about Timur, just from personal experience, like, growing up, he was, like, one of the strongest grandmasters. I mean, he's beat me time and time again, pretty much with no chance. So, like, you have to respect his chess. And just from hanging out with him as I got, like, post-college, like, he does do a lot for chess. He's maybe arguably one of the best ambassadors to ever, I guess, teach chess, show chess. He's very big on just, like, hanging out and going through positions. Even some people who don't really understand what's going on, just, like, the way he describes things, the way he goes through things, it's very entertaining, and I think that's good for chess overall. I mean, there's a couple grandmasters, like, when I was a kid, like, he was still playing, he was winning all the tournaments, Chicago Open, North American Open, and, like, you kind of look up to people like that. Like, another example for me would be Shabalov. When I was a kid and Shabalov was playing, it was almost like watching Mike Tyson. Like, I would say it's kind of similar to that. It was like, oh man, dude, this guy's so good. I love the way he plays. And Timur plays the same kind of style. I would just say he's honestly like a better version of Shabalov. If you don't know Grandmaster Alexander Shabalov, definitely look him up. But, like, most grandmasters have this, like, very slow, patient, like, okay, you make a mistake, we'll eventually win kind of style. But these guys specifically, they had this wild, fun, really cool style where it was like they would blow things up on the board. Very cool tactics, very crazy positions. He actually checkmated my friend Atulia, who is a very strong player, and nobody checkmates Atulia. Like, the game he played was beautiful. Just, like, one example of this. So it puts me in a weird place because, like, when you look up to someone, when you, like, really respect someone, like, you're gonna ride with them. Like, I mean, that's what a good friend should do. Like, despite what people say, if that's your friend, like, you should have their back. But then the way things kind of went, it's just like, I don't know what to do. That, I would say that's the best way to describe kind of what this week was like. Like, I would call it Hurricane Timur. That's, like, what me and Carter have joked about. It was like going through a hurricane. And overall, I'd say it's definitely a good learning experience. Like, this is not the last time I'm sure this is going to happen. I mean, it could be. It literally could be. But, yeah, going forward, like, I think this is a good way to grow up and learn and just proceed forward. I mean, the tournament went smoothly. I'm gonna go through just a couple things that went on in the tournament. Just some small points. So actually, round one was good. I think maybe we started maybe 5 minutes late. So that, I mean, nothing too bad. Definitely could have been a bit more smooth. I don't remember what, because we showed up early. We setting up the night before. Always great idea. Like, I'm really glad we actually decided to start doing that. I don't even know why we didn't do that from the start, but that was great. We got everything set up. Rolled in about 9 o'clock, 9:15. I guess we were just like kind of relaxed because we knew we had time. So this is actually something that I think is important in chess and in life. Sometimes you are so prepared that you kind of chill out when it's time to execute. And this happens, I think, in chess as well, where you get a winning position and then you're like, all right, I'm winning, so I'm just going to, like, you know, just chill out, do whatever. Nothing, don't have to be in a rush. And then all of a sudden, like, you end up low on time, or like something happens, and now you kind of wish that you were more on top of things when things were going well. So that's definitely one, I think, learning experience that we can take away. Setup was great, being on time was great, but until the round is officially paired and good to go, like, keep working with that same kind of vigor and sense of urgency, I would say. So yeah, round two, the laptop actually died. So we used Carter's laptop. So I something that was kind of annoying about this was I couldn't sign in, so I'd have to kind of wait for him to sign in a bunch of times. I mean, obviously it's an easy workaround, but that was something that that happened. And then, okay, so round two, the laptop dies, so we have to put in the. We did save it or auto save it, so we had all of the open section players in, and I think maybe some of the other sections, but we have to go through and put in the players again. And here's something funny that always happens when you're stressed and, like, when you're in a time crunch. Some person comes up and just starts talking to you, like, hey, what's up? Hey, can I look over your shoulder and see what's going on? I find this really interesting. And it's like, dude, like, any other round you can do this, but right now we're kind of in a scramble right here. So yeah, I mean, that's just gonna happen. I mean, the best way to avoid it is to not make mistakes. But this is also why I find the round 3 at 4 o'clock. So round 2 is at 12, round 3 is at 4. So we basically give a lunch break in the middle. And this is why I love the lunch break, because, okay, if something happens in the morning, if we're a little bit behind schedule, like, one, people can have time to get lunch. There's not this huge rush. And two, like, we can catch up and be on time the rest of the rounds. So we don't have this pressure of, like, oh man, we're behind this round and the next round, and then it keeps snowballing until, like, the tournament ends like an hour later than it's supposed to. And, like, if you factor that in and plan for the tournament to end at 8, people are okay. But if you plan to end the tournament at 7 and it ends at 8, people are like, oh my god, we're an hour behind schedule. Like, this is not ideal. Like, what's going on? Like, these guys don't know what they're doing. So for the most part, like, I really will keep this lunch break. And that is the story of the laptop dying. I went over Hunter Withdrawal. So another interesting thing was Carter had to hold against the Grandmaster. Now Carter, actually, I'll give Carter a performance bonus as well. So they played a QGA, and Carter did a really good job of simplifying the position. And, like, we were talking about after, like, drawing a 2600 with black and not really ever being pressed is a very good result. Now, one thing I think that could have been improved from Carter's side in this is he was so adamant on holding the position, he never looked to press the position. And even after the game, he was like, Carter was just trying to hold, but, like, you would have tried, like, he told to me, like, you would have tried to find some kind of counterplay and some kind of, like, knight forks. And at some point, like, so it's like basically rook and 4, rook 4 and bishop versus rook 4 and knight. Carter actually has the better structure, but Timur's king is very active, and he's, like, dancing around and pressing him. And at some point, I think Timur pressed to the point where Carter had chances to try to win. Like, he had the better structure, his knight was anchored, and Timur had loose pawns. And I think, like, I mean, I think Carter wasn't even thinking about trying to win. Like, it was very clear from the way he was playing, just go back and forth, don't press. And in this case, it did hold, and in some cases, it is the best thing to do. But I believe like the best way to defend, at least the way I try to defend, is by playing offense, or by like putting pressure on your opponent and then not giving them time to like torture me forever. Like it was in the game next to them. It was one of my students against Ethan Sheehan, 2300 versus 2100, and like it was the same kind of thing where like Ethan just played like 150 moves and eventually broke through. And like I actually personally have never kind of played one of those games. Like maybe once, maybe twice, but I don't really like get in that position where I have to hold a 150 game where it's equal and my opponent just moves around forever. I mean, you could say that maybe it's luck, but also I think just the way I play is more direct, where it's like, all right, we're gonna do something, instead of like I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And like I said, sometimes it is okay to sit there and wait, but if you can muster some play, if you can make something happen, it makes defending a lot easier. If you keep trading pawns and you get like okay, let me summarize it this way. What is easier to hold? Rook, bishop, and 4 pawns versus rook, knight, and 4 pawns, or rook versus rook, or rook and bishop versus rook and knight. The more you can trade, the more you can make stuff happen, the less you have to do things. Like, then it's just nothing there. Instead, if you keep things and just move back and forth, your opponent can try this way, they can try this way, they can try that way. So it's just something to think about. But Carter did end up holding and drawing the GM, which is actually the strongest player he's ever played. And this is actually something interesting that I didn't think about it till now. But Carter played such a good game, that game. But the game he played after was very less than optimal. He actually ended up hanging a piece, just like something silly, like something really silly. And like someone would be like, how do you play such a good game against the best player you played? And then how do you play like a game where you just made a silly mistake? And this is something I think I learned, and I don't want to keep saying this again and again, but the game I played against Naroditsky, that game took a lot out of me. It just like the amount of focus, the amount of concentration you have the whole game, because you know you're playing someone of such high caliber. The next game, there is somewhat of a hangover effect, where it's like, man, I made it through war, now let me just play this game. And then and the game Carter against Timur went very long time. Like one of the last games, like, I don't even know how, both of them stopped notating, but it was probably around 150, 200 moves. And that just takes a lot out of you. And something to learn and be aware of is like, if you play a very long game, like really, one, I guess, eat some food, drink some water, like get some energy. And then 2, like really try to be extra vigilant of playing lackadaisically, because that's something that I've seen. That's something that I think is very natural, a very natural human tendency. So just something to keep in mind. Now, something that we do need to work on is talking during rounds. And it's not like we're like yelling or like we're having like full blown conversations, and I think this does kind of start with me. Is like if someone comes up and starts talking to me, like I will whisper, like I won't be loud. I'll try to tell people like, hey, let's go to the other room, or let's do it, or we can't talk here. But then I also kind of fall in the trap of like, oh, so this guy wants to talk to me. I'm going to just hold a conversation. Where the best thing to do and the right thing to do is to actually go outside or go to the other room, the Skittles room, and talk to them there. And I think that I do set a bad example. When people see me talk, then they're going to be more likely to talk. And when I don't tell people, hey, you got to talk in another room, then other people are going to be like, hey, well, I guess I don't have to talk in another room. Let me just talk now. And I don't want to be the shusher, the guy who's like shh, 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 again and again and again. And I'm not going to penalize someone, but I think it's just something that I should try to cut down and address, I think, in future tournaments. What else? Okay, so the venue is good. It's solid, Brandon Towers, but there is a pretty big bathroom problem where it's like there's one guy's bathroom, one girl's bathroom. Every single time, the guy's bathroom goes out of order within the first half of the first round, and then you got to use the girl's bathroom. And like, it's not that like using the girls' bathroom is a huge deal breaker for me. Like I do it there during the tournament, but it would be nice to have a venue where like There's normal bathrooms. Like Drew Charter was a great venue. So definitely we're gonna look to figure out if we want. I mean, we have one more event at Brandon, a speed chess championship. But after that, like, it might be bye Brandon for a while. So that's something that we're thinking about. Wednesday evenings, there were a couple people who asked us, like, are the Wednesday tournaments back? Are you guys doing the Wednesday tournaments? And, like, right now the answer is no. Like, we need to figure out a good way to either have... I mean, the big thing is they need enough people. There needs to be enough people where running a tournament makes sense, where we're not spending 5 hours to make $10 each, and where, like, if you come, only one other person is there, so we have to cancel the event. My idea for this is this come New Year's, probably January, to try to reboot something. Like, we did try to reboot once, didn't go well, and I think there needs to be a catalyst on top, which would help a lot. And the catalyst here would be New Year's. It would be a new year. We'd close the winter semester for tournaments, and then we can start progressing forward. So really, we're trying to focus on nailing the Blitz, nailing the Rapid, nailing Scholastic, and then doing the 2-day tournament at the end in December. And if we can nail those, then we can start looking at expanding forward for the next calendar year. Now, this is the first time that we didn't have sponsors. We actually chose almost not to have sponsors. Our normal big sponsor, we told him, like, hey, we want to try to do it, eventually become a business that can make profit without having a sponsorship. So I think we did achieve what we were looking for. Basically, it was about $1,600, I think, profit and $1,300 in prizes. Now with the deductions, it's going to be pretty close to breaking even, but I think it's a step in the right direction, being able to run a tournament and break even without sponsors. And this is probably the format that's going to stay too. Like, we had to raise our entry fees a little bit, and because of that, so kind of felt bad about it, but it made it way easier to break even. If we had kept the normal structure, we probably would have lost money. And something to add about the number of participants, 41, which is, I would say, about our average. There was another tournament in Roswell. Chess Zone had a tournament, and basically I think 39 or 40 people played there. So the good news is there's 80 people playing chess in Georgia, and if we didn't have conflicting dates, I would say around like 10 more people would have played, and that's what I've been gunning for. If we can get to 50 from 40. Now, why do we have tournaments the same day? We didn't really have an option. Also, it was Halloween, so we really wanted to capitalize on the cool day, and I'll get to the costumes in a sec. But yeah, I mean, ideally we can try to avoid conflicting dates, and probably something that we have to talk to the manager or the coordinator at Chess Zone, and just make sure that we don't have conflicting dates. Also GCA on top of that. So a couple more things, and then pretty much closing the summary of this tournament. The Threefold, there was one example of Threefold repetition where someone claimed it and someone didn't agree. And this actually happened to me in Biel in Europe 2 summers ago, where this guy claimed it, and I was really sure that it wasn't. I wasn't really sure. I was pretty sure, and I was hoping that it wasn't, because I was trying to win, and I was off to a rough start. And I basically did the same thing that tournament director did there. Like, he walked us a little bit farther away, set up the position, and then went through the moves. And the easiest way is you claim the position that they claim. You circle that, and then you work backwards and look for, does that position occur 3 times? And one of the guys wasn't writing the moves, whereas the other guy was writing the moves. So we could only use his score sheet. And I mean, according to the score sheet and according to what happened, that's what happened. And something else that kind of happened in this case was he claimed Threefold, and the guy said no and then made a move. And when your opponent claims Threefold, you have to respect it. You pause the clock there, because if he had made that move, then it wouldn't be Threefold. And if he had claimed it after the other guy made a move, then the claim would not stand, because you can only claim it after you make this move, like right there. So it eventually did end up becoming a draw and being threefold, but I mean, I guess the guy wasn't happy about it. But I mean, it is what it is. What the score sheet says, that's all I can do. I can't do anything more than that. So that was the little threefold, a little lesson there. So costume competition, I do think I would have had a chance at winning. I actually dressed up as a Joker, got a nice big green wig that I actually lost that night, which is kind of sad. But the winner was Harry Potter, this little kid dressed up as Harry Potter, and then this other guy dressed up with a full mask and Sith robe as something from Star Wars. I don't know Star Wars enough to tell you exactly. It wasn't Darth Vader, but it was another cool looking mask with a robe on, and they ended up winning. One thing that is a little unfair about costume competitions that we'll say is the little kids always get the loudest round of applause. So the way we judge the competition is we had everyone stand up who we thought could win the competition, and then whoever got the loudest round of applause would make the final two. In the final two, we had each other clap. We had the crowd clap, and basically Harry Potter, it was a resounding first. I think second and third were kind of close, but the guy in second really, he put a lot of effort into his costume, so I was like, all right, we'll go with this. But it was a cool thing to do. Pictures were great, a lot of cool costumes. Always fun to do something extra on the side to make a tournament a little bit more fun or more extra. So that was cool. And then the last thing that so we ended up canceling the Simul on Sunday. We didn't get enough registrations, and I think a big part of that was a lot of the escalation throughout the week. Like I'm not gonna say bridges being completely burned, but I can't even say things being handled poorly. I mean, I guess I can say things being handled poorly, but with the unprecedented situation, marketing the tournament was very difficult and a little bit, I would say, just dangerous. I was advised by multiple people not to do certain things, and at the end, with things getting more and more complicated throughout the week, I figured the best thing to do was to say and to do nothing. And you kind of learn this when you have a girlfriend or you date girls, or you just have difficult situations. If you don't do anything, if you don't say anything, there's no incriminating evidence. It's like you have the right to remain silent. Everything will be used against you. So sometimes it's just better to not say anything, to not try to do anything, and then kind of just let time heal things. Time is one of the greatest things where eventually you should be okay. Yeah, I think that's just how I'm gonna close it. It was a very interesting week, very learning week, kind of week. But we made it. The tournament is over. All the difficult things are behind us, and now we're gonna move on to the next. And that's where I will kind of end this part of the podcast. Our upcoming tournament is in 2 weeks. We're doing the Atlanta Speed Chess Championship. So it's going to be Blitz and Rapid, two different things. We're actually going to do a Scholastic in the morning. So the format is, I think, 6 rounds, game 10 plus 2. And the Blitz is 7 rounds, double rounds, game 3 plus 2. So we are planning on making this unrated. And the reason we're going to do unrated is because we want the general public to play more. The other thing is people don't really care much about their Blitz and their Rapid rating. And it's the first time we're doing it, so I think the bigger focus is to have more participants. And eventually, I would be happy to rate it as long as that's not a barrier to entry. And I think right now it would be a barrier to entry. And with our goal being the number of participants, we're going to try to avoid barriers of entry. Now, a lot of promotion that we have to do in the next 2 weeks, because 2 weeks is a short window. I mean, it's been on the radar for a bit. Definitely been talking about it, but there's definitely still a lot of boxes that need to be checked before we can. Before I feel like it would be ready to. It would be marketed to the level that we're looking for. That's the best way to put it. So that means today, tomorrow. I mean, once again, the list is, I think, the best way to really market. And by just having a deadline for this Friday, hopefully you can get 15 to 20 people signed up. And once you have guaranteed numbers, more people are willing to sign up. But if it's the day before the tournament and nobody knows if anyone's playing, then nobody really wants to take action. It's kind of like that effect where it's like, there's like a story about some girl who was getting killed in her apartment. Not to take a super dark turn, but she was crying out for help, and everyone assumed that someone was going to help, so nobody actually helped. The same thing here. If nobody really knows what's going on, then they're going to be less likely to pull the trigger. Don't know if that was a good example, but yeah, hopefully this Friday we can have a list and we can run a nice blitz and rapid tournament for the first time in Georgia. Now, one thing that is kind of annoying about this is we wanted to call the Georgia State Blitz and Rapid Championship and have prizes for both. And we talked to GCA, and they said, hey, ask this guy. If he gives you approval, you're good to go. Talked to this guy, said should be good to go. We sent the proposal, and they were like, we need more time to discuss. And they've been saying we need more time to discuss for like 2-3 weeks now. And now it's time to actually run the tournament. So basically, we just, the window got shorter and shorter to the point where it's like, I mean, I guess we just have to go, and I guess this is what we're doing. We can't do anything otherwise. So it is what it is. Hopefully, once again, this is something that I kind of figured with the event this past week, with the Grandmaster, with GCA. The best way to handle this is just run a good event, run a smooth event, and let kind of your actions speak for yourself. If you do the right thing, if you do a good job, if people trust you, then you kind of earn trust for the next time this happens, and hopefully people are more on board with things. So that is the next event. All right, so that's a big chunk of what the podcast is going to be. The rest I'm going to keep pretty brief. But yeah, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is chess training, students, and then life. All right, so now my own chess training. So I did start training with Richard, my sensei, and that has been really good. But while the Grandmaster was here, so he was staying with me, and we did do some training, as in like, and something that I learned is like, tactics can come out of nowhere, and like, it's good to go deeper in variations. Like, tactics can come out of anywhere, but only if you look. If you don't look, and if you play a lot of blitz and bullet, and you look at positions superficially, like, you're not going to see anything, because it takes foresight and insight to kind of have a tactic. Like, sometimes, okay, you have a bunch of pieces against their king. Those are the obvious places where tactics occur. But sometimes there's just a bunch of things going on, and like, only if the pieces move in a special, unique, or different kind of way are you going to find this combination. And that is something that I saw, like, analyzing with Timur in certain positions. Like, he would give us some positions, and like, the move that you're looking for is the farthest thing from obvious. It's like, yo, where did this come from? Like, I thought this was a normal position. And that only occurs if, one, you have like time to look through things, and if you're actually really looking and trying to break down the position. So definitely slowing things down, even the way I talk, slowing down words, slowing down the pace. Like, you can find more, you can do more with what you have. Now, that being said, just the way I've been playing chess this past week, just I think with so many things going on and so much indecision, like, I will say that was the biggest thing of this week that I had, and which I really don't like. Just being very like indecisive, it affects your chess. If you're indecisive, you're not sure what to do, and then you kind of just move. When you're fulfilled and when you're enjoying life and when you're like really on top of things, like, it's weird. Like, it just seems like chess plays itself. You're like, oh man, look at this, I found this cool idea. Oh man, look at this, I find this cool idea. Or even when you're fighting, when you're worse, you're like, all right, I can try to do this and I'll be okay. Or, all right, let's do this. But when there's a bunch of like, when there's almost like a fog in your head, when there's like, I think I want to do this, but maybe I should do this. The chess also ends up being like that, where it's just like you're moving pieces and then you get a worse position. And then once you get a worse position, you're just like, all right, whatever, let me try some threats. they don't work, I'm just gonna give up. Like this is the first time, maybe this first week, where I play blitz games, and once I'm losing, I'm just like, dude, should I just resign? Like I'm down 2 pawns. Like what am I doing? Like, let me just move on to the next game. And I think that like you could call chess a conduit for what's going on in your head or in your mind. And I saw this with one of the players, this guy Mike O'Brien. So he took some time off. He took like, I think it might have been like 2 months off. He like went to Europe, went on a cruise, maybe played a tiny bit here and there, and then he came back, and the game, at least the first 2 rounds he played, they were just so fresh. So I was like, whoa, this guy's really swinging. This guy's like playing some good stuff. Like he's not just trading. He's not like in positions where I was like, why is he thinking so long to make a move? He would spend extra time, and he would make even a better move, and like he wouldn't take back. He would find this cool attack, like tactic or attack. And I think that comes with like just having a clear mind and taking a vacation. Like there's another player who is like very, very close to making 2200, like 2199, and then he lost the game. And I mean, it was definitely kind of heartbreaking. Like all he needed to do was beat some old guy and get a win. And he was saying like, man, what should I do? Like, should I just take some time off? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And like, then he was like, okay, when I take time off, should I still study chess or should I just not look at it? And I think like, if you're feeling like run down or burnt out, like a week, maybe 2 weeks of just go watch YouTube, like watch some anime, watch like fighting, watch baseball, watch like some sport that you like, take some time off. I mean, this happens with relationships too. Like sometimes like you take a week, like you don't talk to each other for a week or two, and then you're like, it puts you in perspective. Like, what did I really like? What did I miss? Like, should I be doing this? Should I not? So yeah, I mean, time heals things. Time really gives you some peace, and I've definitely seen that, and I believe that. So for me, I need to go back to Richard, like ASAP. Like tomorrow morning, like I'm actually excited to wake up early, and that is another thing with like all this like controversy and stress. It does motivate me to just play chess, and not even just play chess, like not play a tournament, just study chess. Like I haven't really had the opportunity to open a book and look at things. I've cut up with my puzzles. I've played the games. I mean, some of the games are abysmal. Like some of the worst games. Like, and it's not even like, I mean, sometimes you're hanging pieces, but sometimes there's just no life in the game. Like you're just playing with no life. You're almost like a walking corpse on the board. It kind of felt like that throughout this week. So just getting back with Sensei, like one thing that I will say was kind of annoying when Timur was here is like when we would want to study, he would try to charge. He'd be like, well, you got to get a couple lessons, you got to pay. And it's like, brother, you're staying at my place. Like you're eating the food, groceries, bathroom, everything. Like show me what you would do. And then they go, oh yeah, that's a good point. I should show you what I'm going to do first. But then nothing happened. And of course, some of it is also my fault for not taking initiative and not being clear. There's this song by the Bluestones, Make It Easy. And let me see if I can look up the lyrics. But like, the Bluestones. It's basically talking about this. Like, if you have to think too hard, like, is the pain worth the price? Let me see. I'm almost there. Yeah. Let me send some sage advice. If you have to think too hard, then the pull ain't worth the price. So like if you really have to think so much, like something is wrong. Like there's clearly something on your head, and I think you need to address that. For me, it's like I have to get back to my teacher. I have to study chess. I have to do what I was really loving before. Like that, I was really happy, and like I think that is the solution for me. And then my chess will be rejuvenated again. And that's also another thing. Like when you have someone, a teacher. I mean, when you have a friend, and like you're thinking like, and I think this happens to fighters where it's like, do I stick with my coach or do I go to another gym? And I think you have to ask yourself like, am I happy with what's going on, or do I feel like something needs to change? And there's no doubt in my mind that I'm happy when I'm working with Richard. So why would I switch from that? I'm sure working with Timur would have a lot of good positives and would be very nice, and I'm sure like he would add some insight, but it's just like I enjoy the vibe. I enjoy like all part of the training. So honestly, I might even wake up at like 4 a.m. tomorrow. Like that's the kind of state of mind I am. It's like I need to go back. So looking forward to that. And I'm sure some people like they have this. Should I switch coach? Should I keep the same coach? And I think that what you need to ask yourself is what am I looking for? What do I need to fix? Like, do I feel like something's missing here? And if you do feel like something's missing, like address it. Like talk about it first. Like if you have a conversation and there's no resolution, then you can move on. But if you never have that conversation, you're going to spend all this time wondering, like, what happens if I have this conversation? Like, am I missing something? And that's when the indecision and the non-clarity come. And this is, I think, the truth to life that I think everyone needs to understand and needs to embody, that life is not easy. Life is not just you do this and you get this. Yes, sometimes it is that way. But for the vast majority of it, it's like you don't know you don't really know what's going to happen next. And I think, and I don't want to go like too deep in here, but that's what makes humans different from robots. Like we know we're not supposed to do something and we do something. Robots don't do that. And like, yeah, there's definitely some pros to being a robot, but like that's the whole like beauty and essence of being a human. Where like we live out of free will, like, and we suffer out of it, but at the same time we shouldn't do something, or we should do something, and we get a reward that we couldn't even imagine. And here, actually, let me tie this in, and then I'll get into the very end of this podcast. But there's this fighter, Francis Ngannou. He fought for the UFC. He was the champion, but he didn't believe he was being treated fairly. He didn't think he was getting paid enough. He thought he was losing an opportunity. And basically, he chose not to re-sign. As champion, he decided to walk away from UFC and try to get a boxing fight. Now, no computer would have done this. A computer would have been like, probability is too low. This is stupid. This is silly. Go get your guaranteed money. Go do what you're supposed to do. You are a UFC fighter. Fight in the UFC. And stop trying to be a human. But this guy waited. He talked to different businesses. He got laughed at. He got ridiculed. And then he finally landed the fight that he was looking for against pretty much the best boxer in heavyweight history, Tyson Fury. And he fought him. He fought him this past weekend on Saturday. And so on the decision, like the judges scored the fight that he lost, but everybody on earth thinks that Francis Ngannou won that fight. The guy who walked away from the UFC, he beat the best boxer in the world, and he's not even a boxer. No one gave him a chance. No one told him that you should do this. Everyone told him the opposite, that you're being silly, you're being stupid, like you're wasting your life. You could have had this, but he went ahead and did it anyway. And now looking back, he's like, this is the greatest decision of my life. Like, this is what I should have done. This is what I did. And I took a chance on myself. I believe in myself, and now I kind of reap the rewards. And I mean, that's basically the embodiment of this life and this everything. Like, if you really believe in yourself, and this is, I'm not going to say like the catch-22, but if you do believe in yourself, then you owe it to yourself to work that hard and give yourself a fair chance. Because believing and talking, and this is something that I've learned from like watching fighters, competing. Like, if you're a smart enough person, you know how to say all the right things. Like, anyone with I think enough intelligence can pretend to do the right things and say the right things. But are you actually doing the right things is another question that you have to ask yourself. Because if you're not, then you can believe in yourself all you want, but you are not going to be successful. Like, there is always some luck in life, but I feel like luck finds the people that work hard and the people who do the right things. Whereas if you hope and you pray and that's all you do, and you're going to still be hoping and praying. And I mean, this is as much as a conversation to the people listening as it is to myself. Like, put in that work, get back into the office, get back into the gym, and start grinding, because it's the only way. And this is something I do tell myself. This is the life you chose. Like, you chose this life, so you live with it. And the highs are high and the lows are low, but you got to do what you got to do, and believe in yourself. So yeah, so that has been like the process this past week and kind of what's going on with my chess training. Once again, I am very excited to be back. as I've said almost a billion times. And yeah, U.S. Masters is the next big tournament. So it's about 3 weeks from now. And I can definitely say, to close this, is a lot of motivation to work hard and to do well has come out of this week. And that is one of the good things about pain and struggle, and I think just being an artist, is the more motivation you have, the more you put in. And when you live a tough life, you get a lot of motivation. So, all right, let me just close real quick. I've rambled again and again. So chess students, like I said, the test went great. Now I need to make examples, not examples of my students, but like for example, when I tell them trade, when do you trade? When you're cramped up material, bad piece for good, and attacked. Then I think the next step of this is exercises that portray this. So you actually have to practice what you memorize. So memorizing is the first step, and I think there's still some work I don't think anyone's completely memorized it and knows what to do. But this week, my goal with my students is to actually give them examples of what I'm teaching them. Then they can implement it, and now it's going to really stick. And then this is, I think, once again, I've been talking about this chess course for a while, but the accumulation of all of these lessons and all the prep work and everything to make it happen, it will result in a chess course that I can put together and start teaching people. Another thing that is really good for students, at least for my students, they play specific openings. They play Stonewall, Stonewall Dutch, and French. So if you go to Lichess, you click on puzzles, you can filter the puzzles by opening themes. So for my students, I ask them to do Stonewall Dutch puzzles, Stonewall puzzles, and French puzzles. This is going to cut the learning curve because you're going to only be doing puzzles in positions that you already see. So it's going to help them apply what they're trying to learn. And I actually knew this for a bit, and I think I probably even talked about this in a previous podcast episode, but one of my students reminded me, was like, how can I do position puzzles where like I really feel like they're applying? And then I showed him this, and then I'm going to really be on top of this for all my students. And this, I think, is something that's very important about being a chess coach. It's not just about giving them material. It's also, what's very important is like showing them how to use the material, but also motivating them and keeping them on top of consuming the material. Because if you want your student to be successful, then they got to put in the work. If they stop putting in the work and you don't ask or require them to put in the work, they're not going to be successful. And then you've pretty much failed as a teacher or as a coach. So that is a very big aspect. And actually, I mean, kudos to Richard. Like, when I wasn't doing anything for a while, he kind of messaged me and was like, hey, can I get the Sveshnikov book back? I want to start studying it. And then he said, AKA, when are you coming over? So he did ask me to come back to teaching. And like, I mean, I let this whole week go by, which is kind of sad. But like, once again, I did get the motivation out of it. So we still got time. And I will be there tomorrow morning through sun or snow or whatever other force of nature. Hurricane Timur. I think he's leaving on Tuesday. So we'll see what comes of it in this next day. All right. So that's pretty much a wrap up of the podcast, episode 44. So tournament was pretty good. We got future events. Right now, just trying to close out the season. And then we'll plan for next year. It's been a week. That's what I can definitely say. Yeah, it's a very unique week, one of a kind week, but we made it. And yeah, last thing that I'm gonna say is, I think this is what getting older is. Like, the older you get, just the more things that you have to handle. Like, when you're a kid, you have 2-3 problems. As you get older and older, it becomes 20, 30, 40. And this is why I really think it's important to be nice to everyone, because you don't know specifically what's happening, what's going on, like behind the scenes, what's going on in front of the scenes, why things are happening. But that is why I very, very much believe in whatever you can, try to be nice to people, and try to have a spidey sense. This is something I teach my students, where it's like, bad positions don't come out of nowhere. Like, you don't get your piece trapped in one move. Normally it's surrounded by pieces, it's lost its way, it's gone all around the board to the wrong side of town, and that's why the piece is lost. So try to have that spidey sense and see things before they become a problem. And as you get older and older, you start getting that. And okay, the last thing I say is, just like how you have a spidey sense, don't have an overstimulated spidey sense where you're scared of everything and you're not gonna move. So actually, there's this character in Batman. I promise this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Called Two-Face, Harvey Dent. So the whole idea of Harvey Dent and Two-Face is like he got tired of having to make decisions because it became too difficult. He didn't know who the good guys are, didn't know who the bad guys are, so he would just flip a coin. That let the coin decide. And there's a side story in Batman. It's called like the House of something. Let me see. I'm gonna basically it's like I watched a YouTube video, the darkest story in Batman, and what they do with Harvey Dent is he goes from flipping a coin. Next, they give him a 6-sided die, and then next they give him something with like, I don't know if it's an abacus or something like that, where basically like you will go from flipping a coin to rolling a die that's six-sided to doing something that has like 100 options. And at some point, like, because it's 100 options, he can't make a decision. And like apparently, like in the scene, Batman walks in, and Harvey Dent had soiled himself because he didn't know what to do. So just like it's not black and white, don't get stuck in the decisions. If it's too many decisions at the same time and you end up just doing nothing, that also can be bad. So yeah, very confusing podcast, confusing week, confusing everything. So hope you all were entertained. That's it for today. I'll see you guys later. Peace.